When I was 20 years old, I decided to drop out of college, and that happened about 2 years ago, which was about the springtime of 2022. At the time, it was like a couple months right after I broke up, and I decided to just go back to my intuition, go back to my desires, my internal desires, what I actually wanted from life, and start pursuing it. And for a long time, I knew that college wasn't part of it. College was never my plan, and I was just going there to not necessarily be blamed or be out of touch with other people, because like, a lot of people my age were going to college, and I didn't want to be that guy, you know what I mean? And even when I was 18, right after high school, I was going, but I never really had a specific desire to get something out of college, right? So initially I wanted to be studying accountant, like being an accountant, but then I knew just I hated numbers, right? I just wanted to pursue money because I know like being an accountant is decent. But then I was like, nah, this is not for me. So, and that was during when like the C-19 was happening. And then when schools like kind of shut down, I was going to online classes. And at the time, just about when I was starting college, I wanted to, I started creating content, right? And that was something that it was like an internal calling that I had. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. I don't know why, but I sensed something from within. I was like, I got to pursue this, right? And I started creating content. I did it for that brand that I was creating. It was almost about 2 years already. It was like more than almost a year and a half, 2 years that I was creating content on that account. And then I grew to a big size. I grew like 100,000 followers, more than 100,000 followers on Instagram, like a couple thousand subscribers on YouTube, like 3,000 subscribers, like 15,000 on TikTok, and so forth, right? Like I was creating a lot of content. I was growing a lot, but I didn't really like it that much. I felt out of love with that specific type of content that I was creating. And at the time I was feeling that, maybe I should go back to college, right? So then my love was kind of fading away from that specific type of content creation, which was sports. It was like football, soccer related. I felt like maybe I should go back to school. So I started taking some classes here and there. And then at the time, my relationship wasn't really working. I was just negative, like not the best vibes. And then everything was just kind of coming together, and it was like sitting heavy on me. And I felt like it's time to just remove everything that was like I just didn't want to be associating with it, right? So I left my my relationship, and followed by that was my college. Like, right, I was like, I'm dropping out. I was going to classes at some like couple art classes, because at the time I'd switch my major from accountants to like graphic design. And I knew that's like such a BS move. I knew I was lying to myself. So I was like, listen, I know you don't want to do this. I know you want to be a creator. You want to be like on the business side and stuff. I was like, you know what? Let me just take this opportunity and remove this, because I know this is not what I'm trying to do, right? And listen, for some people it's a risk, but for me, this is calling my internal intuition, and I'm 100% sure it's going to pay off. And right now, it's quite difficult to say, like, always like paying off. Like, I'm not fucking famous or something. I gained like a couple thousand subscribers. But it's not like, oh, I made it, right? And then a lot of the times it's like a pressure from family, pressure from friends or whatever. And it's like, oh, am I doing the right thing, right? And personally, for me, it's always been about faith. I've always trusted myself, always trusted in my intuition. And that's what I believe I'm going to do, right? Because I believe in authenticity. And dropping out of college was the main thing. I was like, I just don't want to do this. I know for a fact my heart isn't in it. So I was like, let me just bring myself out of this situation. I know there's going to be a lot of backlash from family, from relatives and stuff. Everyone's going to be against me. But I did have some people who were like supportive, and I appreciate them for that. But this was never about them. This was never about being that black sheep, if you know that, like the black sheep and the white sheep. I've never wanted to be the black sheep. But I just love following my internal intuition, right? I know my calling. I know I don't have bad intentions. And I know, and I trust my abilities and my capabilities. And I know that if I put in the hours and then I show up constantly, the result is going to be there. Same thing happened with my soccer brand. And I knew it's guaranteed that my account was going to grow. I just stopped posting there, and it was like, the growth stopped. When I got into a relationship, I become lazy, and it was a natural result that the growth is not going to be there, right? So I decided to, make my personal brand, and it's been almost about 2 years that I've had my personal YouTube channel. And when I dropped out, I had like 26 subscribers. And I was like, yeah, it's 26 subscribers, but listen, I know I'm going to get it up. So right now we're sitting on 1,400 something subscribers. Shout out to all of you guys who are part of this community. But it's been a long journey. And the main reason that I decided to drop out of college was, being authentic, following my internal desires. And the only way I would say for people to go to college, and I've never been that person say like, oh, like you shouldn't go to college at all, or like you must go to college. I believe about your internal desires. I believe in your authentic wants from life, right? So if you want to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, or something that requires you to go to college in order to be at the top level, go for it. By all means, I want you to be successful at it, right? But a lot of my internal desires didn't necessarily require me to go to college, right? So I wanted to be a creator. I wanted to be like in the business side of stuff, creating stuff like online world. And in the college, it's kind of left behind. Like they're not really up to date with it, right? You probably can meet some people who are doing decent, but a lot of people who are doing great things at that like side of the things that I want to do they never really went to college, right? So I was like, there is no point for me, right? Like, I mean, there could be some benefits like meeting friends or the socializing aspect and like what I mean, but it's like really like you can meet a lot of friends outside of it. There's a lot of people that you can meet that are doing great things and they don't have to be in college, right? So but again, I'm a huge advocate of college if the reasons that I said were kind of aligning with your internal desires. Like if you want to be like one of those top majors, then go for it, right? But for me, it was never about that. Even when I was like middle school, elementary school, I just never really resonated with school. It was just not something that I liked. But a lot of people think that when you don't go to college, it means you don't want to be educated. You don't want to be following education. But bro, education is life experiences. Education is self-learning. Education is pursuing knowledge just in all aspects of your life. It can be, from videos. It can be from courses. It can be from books. It can be from mentors. This is all education. Education is also learning from your own mistakes. And just because someone goes to school doesn't mean they're educated, right? So my message is to like pursue knowledge regardless. It doesn't have to be at school. It can be in other aspects, like different methods of teaching yourself, right? So it doesn't have to be necessarily like a professor just standing in front of you, right? And I think a skill that's nowadays is missing is self-learning. A lot of people are kind of spoon-fed the information and they're not willing to go out there and find that information for themselves, right? They don't want to go out there and search for something new, search for new information and apply and learn and see, like this is working, is this not working? They just take in what's been told by the professor and just apply for their specific thing that they're learning and then boom, move on, right? But for me, it's never been about that because I felt like whenever I came to America, which was like 8 years ago, I lost my self-learning desires, right? Like I just stopped reading books because when I was in Iran, I was always reading books. And I was a lifelong student. I loved like talking about my knowledge or like what things that I learned and the information that I was excited about, right? Like a lot of my friends were, we always talked about like history, geography, all this kind of things. But when I came to America, I just lost that desire, right? So I wanted to get back to my old self, right? Like I've been always a learner, but the first couple of years, especially in high school, and then the first couple of years, like my late teens and my earlier years in college, I decided to drop out to go back to my old self. And I've been really grateful. Like since then, I've read a lot of books, and it doesn't mean like, oh, just because you read a lot of books, you know a lot of things. No, but like I'm saying, I put in a lot of effort to self-educate myself, and I'm proud of that, right? And my YouTube channel is slowly picking up. After 2 years, it's finally getting that momentum going. And throughout this time, I've gone through a lot of ups and downs, a lot of doubts. I even like stopped YouTube for 6 months. But during this time, I never thought about quitting YouTube. Never, not a single time. I've been thought about like breaks just to come back with different plans and strategies. But the whole thing was just to always be a creator, to leave an impact, to lead with my influence. And sometimes I realized that, listen, like I don't necessarily have the experiences or the lessons to teach. So I went out there, I experienced new things that I'm sharing with you, right? But dropping out of college is a result that I'm going to be able to talk highly of. Not the result, an action that I'm going to be talk about later on. Whenever the external material things can catch up to my goals, I have to take a catch breath. I'm talking too much, but this decision is going to make sense whenever the external things match up with my goals. And a lot of people next to me, a lot of my family members, they think that it's bad decision, and I understand from their perspective. They've been told that, like, yeah, this is the only way to make it at the world. And like 30, 40 years ago, this was true. But nowadays, it's a whole different ball game. And being a student of the game is something that you have to be in order to make it at this world, regardless of if you go to college or not. And I chose this path because I know it aligns with my internal, authentic desires. So simply to put it this way, if you think college is something that you don't necessarily want to do because of your goals don't align with it, by all means, I would suggest you to like do something else. But even if you sometimes don't know what to do, it's good to follow your internal intuition. And for me, like whenever I dropped out of college, I necessarily didn't know what I was going to do specifically. I know I was going to be a creator, like in the online world, or like business stuff, coaching, fitness stuff. But I didn't know the specifics. I took step by steps, and sometimes you're not going to know everything. So I just want you to have that faith in yourself and take those steps and move forward, right? And then the path is going to show itself, right? And the reason I'm making this video, because I know a lot of people struggle with this decision, and I just wanted to share my perspective, because a lot of the times the peer pressure and family pressure gets to you, but especially if you're a guy, you have to be a man and you have to make your own decisions, because at the end of the day, you live your life. And listen, I'm responsible for my decisions, and whatever happens, I'm going to take full accountability. I'm not blaming anyone else, or I'm not going to like give credit to other people or whatever. Like, of course, people help me in my journey or whatever. I'm saying, like, this decision is made by me. Like, I have to take full accountability, and that's why I'm doing everything, and I'm sacrificing a lot of things that need to be done to achieve the goal that I want, right? So my message is to just make the decisions that you actually want to make. Do not be fazed by the opinions of others, because listen, not everyone has your vision, not everyone has your perspective, and not everyone has the information and the knowledge and the divine knowledge that you have, right? Because like a lot of people have these ideas, this vision that they have that's been blessed to them by God, but they're just scared to act on it, right? And for me, I'm all about my vision. I'm a visionary, and I put in my faith and my hours and my effort and my focus on my vision, right? And listen, for some people, it's not going to make sense, but it's never supposed to make sense to other people, because as long as I know it makes sense to me, that's all I care, right? So that's my message. I want you to go for what you want and forget what other people say, right? Like, of course, take constructive criticism, see what the actual situation says, but do not be affected by it, right? So always go for what you want, and hopefully enjoy this video. I do have a Discord community. We talk about self-development, improving yourself, fitness, all this good stuff. So if you'd like to join, feel free to click the link in the description. I'm gonna put it in the comment section as well, and I wanna see you there. And yeah, that was it, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.